Hi, I'm Julie Marshall. I work for Flock Associates. We're a marketing transformation consultancy, and I'm delighted to be here today at the Creative Operations event in London. And I'm joined today by Elisabeth, who works for EMM Consultancy. She's just come off stage for a really engaging set around standardisation and technology, and a great case study for Pandora. Perhaps we can open up with a question. Have you got some outputs from what you've discussed today that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so the most important thing that I wanted to bring across to the audience today is that standardization and technology doesn't necessarily have to mean that you lose creativity. It actually gives up a lot of time and resources for being more creative. So that was my big takeaway. If you standardize your processes and if you use technology in the right way, your creatives will have more time available and also more funds available to do fun things and cool things.
Yeah. So thinking about that, what do you think will boost that from a creative point of view? You talked about technology and standardization. How do you think that's going to boost creativity for in-house studios and creative agencies?
So the main factor is that creatives are being swamped in operational issues. Yeah. So as we heard earlier today as well, is a lot of email, a lot of meetings and all kinds of random things that happen on workflows, where you actually have to focus on being creative and having the time and the energy to come up with brilliant ideas. And it doesn't come naturally, and it doesn't come from staring at the wall. So if you do not have to dig through a whole bunch of emails before you actually start your day, that can already give a big incentive to creatives. And then technology can help to express your creativity, but also to organize your operations, so you know your schedule and you know your time tracking and all the boring things that creatives also have to do, but technology can help in that way.
Yeah, and I think there was some interaction from the audience around the word standardisation.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned, as soon as you say standardisation, it's a little like process with marketeers and creatives. Bit scared. So, how do you get over that barrier?
Yeah, so standardization goes two ways. It's standardizing your processes, having a standard workflow, having standard briefing forms and things like that, but also standardizing your creative output, because the creativity is before you do your output creation. So having then templates ready based on the creativity is where you go. So first you focus on your concept and then translate that concept into ready-to-make files. And of course that is not something that creatives want to hear, but ultimately creatives do not want to spend the entire day scaling back images to a right size to put it into a channel. So that's where standardization and automation comes into play.
Yeah. Great, that sounds really interesting. And so from a point of view of top tips going forward about implementing some of the things you talked about to get consistency and amazing creative, which is what everybody wants, isn't it? Have you got any top tips around that?
Yeah, so I always recommend focusing on 4 areas. So being on people, making sure that your people are happy, that they have the right skills, and that they evolve, so they learn and they go on to courses. It's an investment, but you have to do that investment. Another area is, of course, technology. Implement the right tools to do your job. And then a large part is technology, or is data. So applying data into your processes, using, for example, the GDPR, and making sure that you use that correctly. And the final bit is, of course, processes.
Yeah, there was still a little bit of a gasp about GDPR from the audience.
Yes,
I thought, even now.
Everybody recognizes GDPR as being a major hassle. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Inform yourself and have the technology and the processes in place to make sure that you apply it correctly. It doesn't necessarily have to be very extensive. And one of the things I share today as well is that GDPR is just the first step. So there are things coming along in terms of legislation, and we as marketing need to be prepared for that to make sure that we apply it correctly. So if you want to do a project of improvement, first you analyze on these 4 areas and see where are the pitfalls today, where do I need to improve, where can I improve, and then make a business case to make sure that you can track what you're doing, track on your process, but also explain to your peers what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then from there, make a planning and a roadmap and start doing.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And it's certainly from our experience at Flock, having helped build in-house studios, it's about getting the business to agree what it is they want and what the consumer's going to need, which is going to drive the whole requirement from marketing, isn't it? So yeah, really, really good advice there. Really good advice. So the future, looking forward, marketing operations as a role actually has probably progressed quite a bit. It was quite a new role really in a lot of businesses in the last 2 to 3 years. So what do you think they should be looking at for the future from a function point of view, and maybe through what your experience around the standardisation and technology point of view going forward sort of 2 or 3 years?
I think it's very important that people review marketing operations as not the boring bit and the mandatory bit. So make it cool. I don't know how, but it's marketing. You can sell it somehow. Recognize that it is important. Make marketing more efficient. Yeah. And the focus should really be on making sure that you have your process under control, your process of creating materials and producing materials and sending it out towards the channels, and be ready for more channels to come and for more target audiences to come. So prepare yourself for the future and don't wait until it all falls down, because then you're too late. So start today and start by the quick wins and the low-hanging fruits.
Yeah, and talking about that, have you got any little top tips? The one thing that if you're a marketing operation person and you really want to make an impact tomorrow walking out the door, is there something that you might say, just think about that?
The first thing I would do is like, where do I spend the most time on? That it's very basic, but what do I spend the most time on today? And also have a conversation with the people in your department. What are the biggest frustration? So you have to recognize what is the issue that we're facing. And from there, minor things can already improve just by having a conversation and being aware of what the issues are within your department. And from there, start building on a longer term vision.
Yeah, sounds great. It's been really nice speaking to you today, Elisabeth. Thanks so much for your time. I'm also sporting my purple today, supporting International Women's Day. So nice to be able to sit here together and talk about the conference. It's been a really good conference and more to come.
Thank you very much for having me. It was great fun.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Bye.